I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I loved most, she had so much soul. Hey everybody, it's Old School Hard back with another cultural conversation for you guys. So first things first, if you're not a subscriber to this channel, go ahead, hit that subscription button. We have great cultural conversations here. We've been discussing in great detail about the things that are happening in our community. And so let's keep that conversation going. In order to be notified about my videos, you have to be subscribed to the channel. So do me a favor, hit that subscription button. Also, if you like the videos that I do, hit the like button. The more likes we get, the more that my video is shown throughout YouTube algorithms, and the more conversations that we get to have. Also, share these videos. Sharing helps as well, guys. And so if you do all of that for me, I would greatly appreciate it. I love you guys. I love having these conversations with you. And I love that this is becoming a mecca of news about our community, what's going on in our community, constructively criticizing our community for the better. That's what we want to do here. And so I thank you guys for subscribing to the channel. Also, if you could do me a favor, go back and look at those Where My Girl videos at. Those videos are about missing Black women, their stories, their family stories, and updates on their case. Please share those videos, and so that maybe we can contribute to finding one of these young ladies if we can. So today's video is going to be about an interview that Black News Tonight did with Lisa Simpson, the mother of Richard Risher. I believe Marc Lamont Hill conducted this interview with Lisa Simpson. I will post the link to that video down below so that you can take a look at it. I would post it here, but there are copyright issues. Your videos can be taken down if you take any parts of someone else's video and add it to yours. So I will post that down below so that you can look at it. Once you have looked at that video, or even if you have not looked at that video, come back to this page so that we can culturally discuss the details of that video, and I can get some feedback and some of your opinion about that video and about what Black News Tonight and Marc Lamont Hill are trying to do. So without further ado, let's get into the discussion of this video. Okay guys, so today's cultural conversation is going to be about an interview done on Black News Tonight. That interview was done by Marc Lamont Hill. He interviewed Lisa Simpson, who is the mother of Richard Risher. Now, if you're unfamiliar with what's going on with the Black Lives Matter, we have discussed it in quite detail here on this channel. One of the first conversations that I personally had about Black Lives Matter or about activism in general in our community was Tamika Mallory versus Samaria Rice. Now, if you have not watched that video, I will post the link below for you to watch that video. In that video, however, I discussed some of the criticism that Tamir Rice's mom had about Tamika Mallory, and some of the things that she was doing that didn't really fit the description of activism that she was looking for. So what I did mention in that video was that Lisa Simpson, another mother in the movement, also criticized Tamika Mallory as well. Now, along with the criticism that they have for Tamika Mallory, they also took issue with Black Lives Matter as a whole as well. And so the tweet went out, a conversation started with Tamika Mallory and catapulted on to criticism from Black Lives Matter. Now, if we go back further, we also know that Mike Brown Sr. came out against Black Lives Matter and is demanding millions of dollars from Black Lives Matter in support of a foundation that he's trying to create in the city of Ferguson. And not only that, he also wants the money because they've used his son's death heavily to generate funds for their own charity, foundation, whatever Miss Patrice Cullors wants to call Black Lives Matter now. So this all started a long time ago. I covered the story between Tamika Mallory and Samaria Rice. That story, once again, included Lisa Simpson and her criticism as well, as they are both standing together to get justice for their families, as well as to remove entities that are a distraction to that movement. Now, let's fast forward to the interview that was conducted on April 20th. Now, Black News Tonight did the interview with Lisa Simpson. Of course, Marc Lamont Hill is their anchor or their journalist, and so he interviewed Lisa Simpson. During that interview, he asked Lisa Simpson a number of questions about her criticism against Black Lives Matter. They discussed an interview that he had prior with Patrice Cullors. We talked about that here on this channel as well, and you know, that discussion is still ongoing. There are still people adding comments to that discussion. If you have not seen that video, I will post the link for that video as well. But we all know that in that interview with Patrice Cullors, she basically said that her organization was not a charity. She also denied receiving or using any Black Lives Matters funds for her 4 $1 million houses. Now, we also know during that interview, they discussed that Black Lives Matter had received over $90 million. And the question was what was being done with those funds. Patrice Cullors also talked in great deal about holding other black organizations such as hers accountable, that she wasn't the only organization that should be in highly criticized or in high regard as to what they do in the movement. She also talked in great deal about making sure that the government, that we are pressuring the government for the things that we need and not necessarily her organization. We know that that interview was quite trying. We know that that interview really was a way to lessen the blow that Patrice Cullors was feeling when the article from the New York Post came out saying that she had 4 $1 million homes, right? And that, you know, Marc Lamont Hill pretty much helped her to ease that blow, to gain sympathy points. Of course, you know, she brought up being a Black woman and being able to take care of her family and all of that other good stuff. So I guess in all fairness, he did the interview with Lisa Simpson so that her side can also be told regarding her criticism toward Black Lives Matter. Okay, I don't know about you guys, but I was very unfamiliar with who Lisa Simpson was until the criticism against Tamika Mallory came out, and Lisa Simpson's name was added on to the conversation with Samaria Rice. Had no clue who she was, did not know who Richard Risher was, and I believe that's because I'm here on the East Coast, and it may have been more of a bigger news on the West Coast. Not only that, the death of Richard Risher was back in 2016 when Black Lives Matter was officially launched, or it started to make noise, or we started to hear a lot more about the organization forming. And so that may be another reason why Richard Risher's name was not coming up in a lot of the conversations that has happened. And then as I go further into detail about his story and different things like that, we'll understand other reasons why his name may not be mentioned with people like Trayvon Martin or Mike Brown Jr. and those type of people. So I wanted to give you guys a little bit of background so that you're familiar with Richard Risher's story. Now, I don't know if it's Risher or Risher. And so if I'm butchering that name, I do apologize to Lisa Simpson and her family for not saying the name correctly. I read several news articles as well as the initial police report filed the day that Richard Risher died. And so I wanted to give you as much information as I could surrounding the killing of Richard Risher. So the date is July 25th, 2016. Now, according to the police report, there was a briefing done the day before or 2 days before to put police on alert about two rival gangs. So we have the Bounty Hunters versus the Crips. Now, these are two LA-based gangs. Evidently, they were having a feud, and so possibly this feud would mean that there would be a lot more shootings in the upcoming weeks because of this rival, right? So, they were told during that briefing that they needed to be on high alert because of these two gangs. Not only that, they needed to be on high alert because there were already 11 shootings that occurred in the neighborhood that Richard Risher was from, and that is the Nickerson Gardens community area, community project area, right? Okay, so there were 11 shootings, and out of those 11 shootings, 3 people have been fatally shot and killed. And so they were given a brief to be on the lookout for these two rival gangs, as well as an increase in shootings. And so as they were out in the community, they needed to be on high alert. They needed to make sure that they were watching, making sure that everything was visible, monitoring the area and different things like that. So on the day of July 25th, they went around to the Nickerson Garden public housing area. Now that area has like several buildings, and in between a couple of those buildings is like a little park and like a bench, you know, where people can sit and talk or be outside with their family or whatever, right? So there were several black men gathered in that area. And so according to the police report, because of all of that was going on and this supposed increase of shootings, the police officers got out of their vehicle and walked toward the area where these young men were. Now, this is like later on in the night. This is about 10:30, 10:45 at night. And so as they are approaching a number of these young men who they believe are a part of the gang, the Bounty Hunters, there is a suspect who is supposed to be one of the lead members of the Bounty Hunters. And so one of the police identified this guy who was in high ranking of the Bounty Hunters as somebody that he knew from different police reports and different things like that. And so that boy or young man was the first to say something to the police. And so basically, according to this police report, this young man raises his hand and says, "Oh, I don't have nothing, so come check me first, because I know that's what you want to do, is check me first." Now, according to the LAPD, that is code for letting the other members know if you have a gun on you. This is high alert time. This is your alert. This is your notification that they are going to be checking you. If you have a gun, this is what it is. So he was going to be the distraction for the other men that were also standing around him that may have drugs on them or that may have a gun on them. So as he's saying this and making gestures and different and different things like that, this means that everybody else needs to, be prepared. So as he's lifting his hands and different things like that so that he can be checked, Richard Risher actually runs away. And as he starts to run, the police officers run after him. Now, according to the police report, they are running from different parts of the housing projects. and they notice that Richard is holding his side, and because he's holding his side, he must be the one who has a gun on him. So they are in pursuit of him, and Richard Risher is running. And somehow during this chase, Richard Risher takes out his gun. And so the officers see that this gun is visible, and then they have their guns out. And so as they're in pursuit of him, they say that Richard Risher starts to shoot. And so they start to shoot back at him. Now, in the middle of them shooting back at him, Richard Risher, I guess, shoots at one of the officers. That officer is hit in the arm. Of course, once that officer is hit in the arm, that causes all of the other officers to full forcefully come after Richard Risher. And they do eventually shoot him. He falls down on the sidewalk. They subdue him, put handcuffs on him. When the ambulance arrived, they try to resuscitate him, but he's fallen victim to the wounds, and he dies. And so that is the story of Richard Risher and how he was killed by police on July 25th, 2016. Now, y'all, I read this story a number of times, and I read several articles on this story. And of course, it's highly cited on the officer's side. And the media has allowed LAPD to take control of the narrative of this story. But I have several questions about what occurred that day. Okay, so LAPD was on high alert about two rival gangs, right? So these gangs were supposed to ignite some sort of war in the upcoming week. Okay, so that's the word that they got. Not only that, you have 11 shootings in the Nickerson Garden area. 11 shootings, 3 succumbed to those shootings. There are 3 deaths in those shootings. Okay. They were briefed days before about being very watchful about that community, making sure that they do their beat, all of that. Okay. My biggest issue is you have a number of black men. There's nothing going on at the time, but there are a number of black men and gathered in one area together in the Nickerson Garden projects. They're just gathered there. No report of like smoking weed or marijuana, no report of arguing, no report of anything highly suspicious going on at the time. So you just have a number of black men sitting outside at 11 p.m. at night. My biggest question is, so why did you get out of the car? I hope y'all are getting this. You can read the report. I'm going to have it listed below as well so that you could read the police report. If the black men are not doing anything at the moment, right? If they are gathered together, which is perfectly fine. Black people can gather together. There's nothing wrong with black people gathering together, shooting their shit, whatever they want to do, having a good talk, laughing, roasting somebody. You know how we are in our culture. So the report doesn't say that there's anything going on. Just that the officers get out of their car just to see what's going on. So like I said, you have a number of black men that, are just having a good time with each other. There's nothing going on. The police officers address them. They basically are on their turf right now. They're minding their business. The police officers have approached them. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 that I have. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Freddie Gray case, But I listened to a podcast of the trial of the Freddie Gray case from the beginning to the end. So that was about 13 weeks of listening to police reports and court proceedings, all of that. Now, if you're familiar with the Freddie Gray case, you know that the whole incident started with Freddie Gray seeing cops and then he ran. And so since he ran, it provoked the cops to also run. So that is the same thing that happened with Richard Risher. So they're approached by these cops. The cops are, basically trying to see what's up. They see somebody that they're familiar with. That person supposedly alerts the others that something goes on. And so Richard starts to run. And so the cops run after him. Now, in the Freddie Gray case, they talked is a significant deal about this idea of running after someone who is running if you're a police officer, right? So should it be allowed for police officers to start a chase with you if you start running when you see them? Should they be allowed to do that? Because you don't know what you're running for, or why that person decided to jump off and run in the first place. It could be something really, really small. It could be something really big. They may have a warrant or something like that. But they talked in detail about if it was legal for police officers to start a chase with someone without there being any suspicion. So Freddie Gray started running, and the cops started running, but there is no info on why Freddie started running or if there was any need to run after Freddie in the first place. And that's the same thing with Richard. Richard started running, and so to them, it set off in their mind that he was hiding something, so they started to chase after him. But initially, there really isn't any information or any indication that there was a need to run after Richard. Because they approached these black men in their community and there was nothing going on. On top of that, Richard had not said anything or done anything other than run. And so I want to know how you guys feel about cops being able to chase even with no indication that there is something wrong. If that's something that you believe that they should be able to do, or if that should be outlawed altogether. There are states who do not allow that. There are states that do. But it reminded me of the Freddie Gray case, in that Freddie Gray's whole death pretty much started from a pursuit. And the cops didn't really have any justification on why they were pursuing Freddie Gray at all, other than he just started running. And so that's what this case reminded me of. So those are two of the biggest issues that I have with it. On top of that, there is a surveillance of Richard running from police and police chasing after him. In that video, it doesn't show Richard having a gun in his hand. Now, according to police, during that time, they said that they saw Richard with the gun in his hand more than once, and that he shot back at them 2 times. Also, they say that the gun was right next to him when he died. But in the video, there is no gun in Richard Risher's hand. And so Lisa Simpson has always stood by the fact that her son never had a gun at all. And on top of that, not only did her son not have a gun, that they planted a gun next to him once he died on that sidewalk. Now, allegedly, during this chase, Risher is said to have shot at the police at least 2 times, one resulting in one of the police officers being shot in the arm. However, LAPD has been accused of shooting at Risher over 60 times. Now, we know out of the 60 times that they shot at Risher, that 35 of those bullets actually went into Risher's body. Now, that was on the autopsy, that he was shot over 35 times. Now, the result of this shooting has been terribly unfortunate for Lisa Simpson and her family. The LAPD Police Commission, during the time after the death, came out pretty quickly and said that the 4 officers involved in the shooting were justified in the killing of Richard Risher. And so there has been no justice in the Richard Risher case at all. There has been no justice. The police officers were not held accountable for their actions of that day. The shooting was held as justified, and so there has been no day in court for Lisa Simpson or her family. Currently, right now, what we have going on is the wrongful death lawsuit that I believe she put into action last year. So the wrongful death lawsuit started last year, and they're going through the court proceedings now. But from 2016 till now, Lisa Simpson has received no justice. But that does not mean that Lisa Simpson has not been fighting for her son. She has been to a lot of board meetings, LAPD commission board meetings, where she has openly discussed how angry, how hurt, and that there needs to be justice for her son. I believe the year of 2016, 2017 alone, she attended every meeting that they had, along with a number of people in support of her and her family and getting justice for her son, Richard Risher. Actually, the week of his death, the people that lived in the Nickerson Garden project area were also very, very supportive of Lisa Simpson. They were tired of just the police activity in general around their community, and that it resulted in a young man who was only 18 years old losing his life for no reason at all. Once again, this was a time where they weren't doing anything at all, but just hanging out. And so this could have not happened at all had the police not gotten out of their vehicles just to see what was going on. And so they protested with Lisa Simpson. They attended a lot of those meetings in support of Lisa Simpson and her family. So let's fast forward to this interview on Black News Tonight that Marc Lamont Hill had with Lisa Simpson. Now, during that interview, he asked what was the criticism that Lisa Simpson had towards Black Lives Matter and the founder, Patrice Cullors. And Lisa Simpson is a person that doesn't mind speaking her mind at all. So she basically said that she met the LA chapter of Black Lives Matter shortly after her son died. Now, she was a part of the Black Lives Matter LA chapter at first, but she was kicked out because they said she made them look like a terrorist. Now, this may be the reason why they may look at her as a terrorist is because there was a time where Lisa Simpson went to a LAPD police commission board meeting or some type of a meeting where she got up and addressed them about the killing of her son. And during that meeting, full of police officers as well as the community, she stated that she really believed in an eye for an eye. And she also felt like she would be justified for killing the cops that killed her son. Now, the police officers felt some type of way about what she said and felt like it was threatening. So they filed a restraining order against Lisa Simpson. In this restraining order, they advised the judge to strip away her ability to carry any type of a weapon, a gun, a knife, or anything like that. Initially, the judge agreed and granted the restraining order as well as all of the additional things that the police officers were asking. Now, they got to have that restraining order for a little bit before the judge overturned that rule, because the reality is she wasn't threatening to kill them at that very moment. She was saying that it should be an eye for an eye. It should be justified for them to die because they did kill her son. So it was overturned. So basically what she was telling Marc Lamont Hill was that that chapter of Black Lives Matter kind of did not like what she was saying in the public and different things like that. And so basically they asked her not to be a part of the chapter, and she started to receive a bad name because of that. And that there was a lady in particular who was in charge of the LA chapter. Melina Abdul is her name, that she really took issue with, because Melina Abdul basically said that she was going to get a number of funds and donations in Richard Risher's name in order to support Lisa Simpson and the family. And so they did receive a number of donations, but Lisa Simpson has not received it. And so she's been outspoken about that ever since. And so Marc Lamont Hill was like, okay, well, what is it that you want? Would you like to receive some type of funds, or how do you think that we can fix this? And Lisa Simpson made it very, very clear that the way that they can fix this is to step back and to not profit off the deaths of her son or anybody else's family member who has died at the hands of police, because they are not receiving justice, because from the outside, from the inside looking outside, in this particular case, it just appears as if the people who are front runners in the movement are receiving spotlight, are receiving media attention, and receiving funds off of the deaths, but justice is not being served. And so she called out Patrice Cullors. She called out Tamika Mallory. Actually, Marc Lamont Hill tried to avoid saying Tamika Mallory's name. And Lisa Simpson was like, are you talking about Tamika Mallory? Because I'm talking about her too. She is a really blunt person. And so she was saying, I really want them to not take part in this anymore. I really want them to allow us to get justice for our family and not receive any funds or not be a part of any of this, because of everything surrounding Patrice Cullors, everything surrounding people like Sean King and this celebrity activism is basically shining a light on them. They're able to profit off that and to make their organizations pop and to receive movie deals and commercial deals and interviews with different big companies and contracts with YouTube and stuff like that. They're able to profit off of these dead people, but the family members aren't receiving anything. Lisa Simpson talks about being homeless and not receiving any support because of her name being slandered by Black Lives Matter LA, and not receiving any justice in her case, period. Like I said, she's probably one of the only victims family members that has a wrongful death suit that still hasn't been done yet. It's just really getting started, and it's because she hasn't received any funds like, Mike Brown and Trayvon Martin. A lot of people came together to donate to them and to do certain things with them. Samaria Rice, those type of people. But Lisa Simpson has dealt with homelessness and different things like that, which is quite different than, like I said, other people in the movement. And so she hasn't been able to get what any of these people have gotten. And so she is asking that they just step down and allow justice to occur and allow these family members to take hold of their slain member of their family's court cases and stories and different things like that, to push that aside. One of the quotes that she said that really stuck with me, that I love quite a bit, is she said, one of the things she said is that we don't want you to take over our fight. We want you to stand beside us. Now, that wasn't a part of the interview. That was a part of another video that I watched of her, but it's so very, very true. We don't want you to take over our fight because it's not really your fight. It's not really yes, you're part of the Black community, but you didn't lose anybody. And so we don't want you to take over our fight because it's ours. We want you to stand beside us as we try to fight for our family members. And so basically that's what she relayed to Marc Lamont Hill. This is where I started to get pissed off at Marc Lamont Hill because, number one, I don't know who made him the mediator between Black Lives Matter and the mothers of the movement. I don't know who made him a mediator or who told him he was one, but I want him to know that he is not one. I want him to know that he needs to step back and allow people to feel what they feel and also move towards justice without feeling like they need any of these blue check people or any of these celebrity activism to take part of it. So he was like, what can we do to get you guys back in a room together? And Lisa Simpson said, we tried to have a meeting with them. We discussed a time and a place. And these people did not show up for the meeting. And that meant Patrice Cullors, Tamika, Mallory, and Melina Abdul. They were supposed to meet so that they can discuss certain things with Samaria Rice and Lisa Simpson. They did not show up to that meeting. And so, like I said, Marc Lamont Hill was like, well, what can I do to get you guys together and try to get this rectified for you? And I was just like, Mark, like, who asked you? Like, why do you feel like they have to be back together? Why do you feel like that they have to somehow mediate? First of all, this is their children who lost their lives. They don't have to meet with anybody. They don't have to discuss anything with anybody. They don't have to do that. They can tell them to step back and that be that. There doesn't have to be a mediation between the two. For some odd reason, we have this belief that all Black people have to work together, even after being burned by said Black people. That's not necessarily the case. Lisa Simpson made it very clear that they slandered her name, that she wasn't able to receive funds that were hers, that were donated to her, her son's name, and that she had really been hurt by people who called themselves activists in the movement. She hadn't received any phone calls from Patrice Cullors. She hadn't even seen Patrice Cullors in the LA neighborhood or LA area, even though Patrice Cullors is from that area. Crump, she says that he's a crook and stuff like that, and she hasn't, heard from him, and that all he does is take money and different things like that. If they are making these claims, why are you trying to get them to mediate? I don't understand what Mark was trying to accomplish by trying to get them all in a room to discuss the issue. They owe us nothing. They owe Black Lives Matter nothing, but to make sure that they use their names no longer in any interviews or anything. That they step back and step away from activism in the way that they have been doing activism. That is the only thing that she is asking for. And here's Marc Lamont asking for them to mediate, like they're two kids playing on the playground and they hit each other and started fighting. It's deeper than that. It's more than that. And I just didn't understand it. And then another thing that really annoyed me, you could tell that Marc Lamont Hill has not dealt with people like Lisa Simpson before, because he didn't even know how to conduct that interview. Not well. And I don't even think he researched her enough to know who Lisa Simpson was. She's not your typical interview person. And we talked about this in the last video with Samaria Rice, where she said that she wasn't as articulate as other people in the movement, like Sabrina Fulton, a couple of the other people, Jordan Davis's mom. They really don't have that media... what's the word that I want to use? Etiquette. That media etiquette that a lot of the other people had. And so they speak from their heart. They speak with passion. They speak how they feel. And you could tell Marc either hasn't been around these people in a while, and he's used to just talking to really these real civilized, well-mannered type of people. And I'm putting actress because I don't want you to think that I think that Lisa is not that way. But just in general, she says how she feels. She speaks the truth. She doesn't have this persona that she puts on when she gets in front of the media. She's going to tell you exactly how she feels. And I think that Marc didn't even know how to handle that. And that shows that we have a lot of work to do in our division of, you know, who we relate to, who we talk to, and who we're around. Because to me, it shows that Marc isn't around people like Lisa every day. And those are the people that he needs to be around, because those are the people whose sons are being shot by police. It's not people that are highly educated, you know, walking down the street one day and they're being shot by police. We're talking about people who live in areas like where I'm from, and like maybe where Marc grew up at and he moved away from. These are the people who police are shooting. And it just showed that these type of conversation with those type of people aren't happening with Marc Lamont Hill very much. And so this interview was just so frustrating to me, that he's trying to mediate or trying to get these two people to work together, when the reality is we need to be breaking away from people who are opportunists in our community, who are celebrity activism. Because what happens is the spotlight becomes on them and what they have to say, and not justice for the people who have lost their lives and the family members who are affected by that. That is a whole entire problem for me. And for somebody to say, can we all just get along? I don't think so. We cannot all just get along, because we don't all have the same agenda. And so I want you guys to go back and look at that interview. I want you guys to tell me what you thought about that interview. Have you heard about the Richard Risher story? What do you think about it after reading the police report? What do you think about this mediation that Black News Tonight is trying to have with Black Lives Matters, the celebrity activists like Tamika, Mallory, Sean King, and the mothers of the movement like Samaria Rice and Lisa Simpson? Let me know in the comments below. This has been our cultural conversation. Thank you so much for watching. I will talk to you guys on Wednesday for another episode of Where My Girls At. This is Old School Heart. Be safe out there. Bye, guys.